All references to Prada, Fendi, Dior, Gucci, Chanel, Marc Jacobs, Coach, Tod's, Balenciaga, or Louis Vuitton are for identification uses only. Click listed here to get authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes at discounted selling price even though it truly is continue to obtainable. All orders are safeguarded by SSL encryption, the greatest field normal for online security from trustworthy distributors. Authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes is backed with a 60 working day no issues asked revenue back insure. If within just the very first 60 times of receipt you are not satisfied with Wake Up Lean, you can ask for a refund by sending an email to the handle presented within the product or service and we will straight away refund your entire purchase selling price, with no inquiries requested. Your membership to our online listing is a one-time payment and it is great for life, which include free of charge updates. What designer manufacturers can I be expecting to locate in the wholesale designer directory? The listing consists of hundreds of designer manufacturers. Most manufacturers are obtainable. Here's a small sample of some of the manufacturers you will locate in our listing: 7 for All Mankind, Aeropostale, Armani, Balenciaga, Infant Fat, Bottega Veneta, Bulgari, Burberry, Calvin Klein, Celine, Chanel, Chloe, Christian Audigier, Citizens of Humanity, Coach, Danang, Diesel, Dior, DKNY, Dolce & Gabbana, Donna Karan, D2, Abene, Energy, ECI, Ed Hardy, Eileen Fisher, Elie Tahari, Ellison, Envy, Etnies, Etro, Fendi, Ferragamo, French Link, FC UK, Furla, Giorgio Armani, Gucci, Guess, Givenchy, H&M, Hugo Manager, ICU, Issey Miyake, Jill Sander, Jimmy Choo, Just Cavalli, John Varvatos, Jones New York, Juicy Couture, Kate Spade, Kenneth Cole, Lacoste, Levi's, Liz Claiborne, Very Long Champ, Lucky Model, MAC, Marc Jacobs, Max Mara, Mech, Denim, Miko, Michael Kors, Mission, Missoni, Miu Miu, Nine West, Opera, Oscar de la Renta, Omega, Osiris, Paul Smith, Polo, Prada, PRPS, Puma, Ralph Lauren, Ray-Ban, Rebecca Minkoff, Roberto Cavalli, Robbins Jean, Rock and Republic, Rock Revival, S12, 7 Denims, Silver Denims, St. John, Stella McCartney, Steve Madden, Stone Island, Swarovski, Tag Heuer, Tommy Hilfiger, Tory Burch, Tod's, Tom Ford, True Religion, UGG, Vera Wang, Versace, XCVI, Yves Saint Laurent, Zegna, and many more. Sign up for now and access respectable suppliers of authentic designer goods today. Through the several years, we have served hundreds of men and women purchase reliable designer goods at wholesale. Some have made use of our listing to begin their business, other people to supply goods for their current business, and a lesser range have made use of it basically for particular use. Field insiders concur, our listing is a large benefit for individuals seeking to purchase reliable designer goods at wholesale. We appreciably mitigate the chance for resellers by cutting by the cons and unscrupulous sellers and connecting you with trustworthy wholesale suppliers of reliable designer purses, apparel, footwear, and so forth. Financial gain off of our several years of exploration and expertise sourcing reliable designer goods at wholesale. One particular supplier can extra than fork out for the price of our membership, avoid cons and sellers of phony merchandise, preserve time and cash suppliers of wholesale designer purses and other designer goods that fall ship wholesalers of designer goods in Italy and Europe 60 working day revenue back insure attempt the wholesale designer directory chance free of charge for 60 times. If you are not satisfied with the listing for any rationale, in any respect, we will refund your membership charge in total. Basically send us an email inquiring for a refund. It is that straightforward. Still not confident? Take into account this 60 working day revenue back ensure the listing is online in the members region of this site. Following joining, you will straight away make a username and password to access the listing and then be logged into the user's region. Wholesale Designer Purses, COM 400 South 4th Road, Suite 401 M 115 Minneapolis, MN 55415 Mobile phone, 1-800-701-2846 Toll free of charge, fax, 800-701-2846 Info at Wholesale Designer Handbags, COM PS Fascinated in learning extra? Here's an article about how the wholesale designer purse field is compared with any other. VAB Ventures, LLC is not an approved seller or agent of Prada, Fendi, Dior, Gucci, Chanel, Marc Jacobs, Coach, Tod's, Balenciaga, or Louis Vuitton. Also, VAB Ventures, LLC is in no way affiliated with Prada, Fendi, Dior, Gucci, Chanel, Marc Jacobs, Coach, Tod's, Balenciaga, or Louis Vuitton, and these manufacturers are the registered logos of their respective firms. We update our listing month to month to guarantee that the info we offer is constantly up to date. New updates are emailed out to users and also seem on the primary web page of the listing. Totally free help by phone or email. Have a query about a supplier or will need serving to finding a specific product or service? Your membership incorporates free of charge lifespan help by means of email or telephone. We have about 13 several years of expertise and are content to help with any query you have as you supply reliable designer merchandise wholesale. Illustrations of the items and wholesale pricing you will discover in the directory *. The over items had been listed on the supplier's internet websites in our listing as of 3/5/15 and are examples of the sorts of items you could locate. These are real examples from wholesalers in the listing. Some of these examples are previous period closeouts, which is why the pricing is so lower. This is a very compact portion of the items and manufacturers obtainable. There are about 60 suppliers in the listing, each with their have stock. Commonly asked issues: I have read it's not possible to purchase authentic designer goods at wholesale. Designers do not wholesale. How is it possible that your suppliers are capable to give designer goods at wholesale? Although it's true the designers, on their own, do not wholesale, it is continued possible to purchase reliable designer goods at wholesale. To do this, you have to appear to the secondary market and purchase from possibly jobbers, suppliers of off-selling price goods, or approved dealers who are clearing excess, overstock or shelf pull stock. This is the only way to supply reliable designer goods wholesale. Are these wholesalers that I can locate basically hunting on the web? For the most aspect, no. Several of these suppliers do not promote on their own online. They never will need to. They are principally only known to individuals, men and women in the field. Does your listing incorporate wholesale suppliers of other designer merchandise, aside from purses? Indeed, our listing consists of suppliers of reliable designer apparel, footwear, watches, fragrance, jewelry, sunglasses, add-ons, and cosmetics. Does your listing have wholesale suppliers of phony or knockoff purses? No. We only offer with wholesalers of authentic designer merchandise. Knockoffs, no subject how you provide them, and even if you disclose that they are knockoffs, are illegal. They are considered trademark infringement. Do the wholesale suppliers give present period or previous period merchandise? Both. On the other hand, the bulk give previous period goods, as this is the bulk of what's obtainable when it will come to reliable designer merchandise. Can I use the listing if I am found overseas or in one more region outdoors of the USA? Indeed. The wholesalers in our listing are principally found in the United States, Europe and Asia. Even so, most of the suppliers ship around the world. Therefore, you can use the listing no subject where you are found. We have purchasers all about the entire world who successfully use our listing. How lengthy does transport acquire merchandise? Shipping and delivery time differs by supplier. On typical, shipping will take 7-10 times, but it could acquire extra or a lot less time relying on where you are found in relation to the supplier, phrases of the give, and so forth. Can I use the listing to purchase wholesale designer purses just for myself, not necessarily to provide? Indeed, but know that the bulk of the suppliers have, on typical, 5 to 10 product minimums. We only have a couple of suppliers that do not demand bare minimum orders. Are there any other charges connected with the wholesale designer directory? No. There are no other prices connected with my listing. Interval. You will never be re-billed for anything at all. I acquire this very seriously. If a supplier is listed in my listing, they are legit. After permitted into the listing, I periodically evaluation the suppliers to guarantee they stay on the up and up. The listing is online. It is in a password-safeguarded members-only internet site. Possessing an online listing helps make it possible to continue to keep the info up to date at all situations. Directories that are printed on paper can be outdated in an instant. When I arrive across new suppliers, you'll be capable to look at this info suitable absent when you log in. If there is a problem with a supplier, it's dealt with suitable absent and all users are notified. You won't locate this sort of relevancy with other wholesale lists. Sign up for now. 60 working day revenue back in sure. Here's what some of my buyers are indicating about my listing. Here's what you get with the Wholesale Designer Directory. The listing consists of legit suppliers of reliable wholesale designer purses, apparel, footwear, fragrance, jewelry, sunglasses, watches, cosmetics, and add-ons. Suppliers supplying hundreds of designer brand names at up to 80% off retail. The listing has about 60 suppliers who, collectively, give hundreds of designer manufacturers. Most designer manufacturers are obtainable, from substantial stop manufacturers these as Prada, Gucci and Fendi to mid-assortment manufacturers these as Coach, Michael Kors, Steve Madden, Nine West, DKNY, Polo, and Guess. Wholesale pricing ranges from 40–80% off retail on typical, relying on the period of stock. Suppliers that ship worldwide, the bulk of the suppliers are found in the United States and Europe. Nevertheless, virtually all of them ship around the world and can therefore be made use of by anybody, irrespective of locale. We have users in all sections of the entire world who successfully use these suppliers to supply stock. Articles or blog posts with insider details to support you navigate the enterprise. In addition to the listings on their own, you get posts that offer you with insider info and guidelines on navigating the field, doing the job with suppliers, finding new resources, identifying new techniques to provide, and so forth, all based on about 13 several years of expertise. Thoroughly vetted and screened suppliers, we perform extremely really hard to guarantee that every single supplier listed in our listing is authentic and presents 100% reliable merchandise. We acquire this very seriously. Possibly we or trustworthy colleagues have personally accomplished business with the suppliers listed in the listing. We have also verified suppliers' business credentials, and in many instances, authenticated their merchandise and checked third celebration field references as well as reviews from former and present purchasers. The bulk of the suppliers in our listing have been listed for several years and have withstood the take a look at of time. They have been made use of successfully by our users for about 13 several years without any problems. Top quality, specific provider listings. Each individual supplier listing incorporates the supplier's finish, make contact with info, identify, telephone range, handle, site, and so forth. Also supplied is how lengthy the supplier has been in business, the sort of merchandise they give, manufacturers they have, purchasing phrases, bare minimum purchase requirements, as well as certain responses on each supplier to give you a greater understanding of who they are and how to perform with them. There is no fluff. You will not be waiting by invalid or inactive listings to locate a supplier. Each and every listing is a quality supplier. Totally free lifetime updates, provided with your membership as free of charge lifespan updates of the listing. Things alter in the industry, new suppliers enter the marketplace, suppliers go out of business, and so forth. It is a reality of life. With these varieties of payment you are safeguarded should anything at all go incorrect. Be extremely leery of suppliers that only settle for wire transfers or cash orders unless of course you are assured that they are legit, mainly because when you send them your cash, it's nearly impossible to get it back unless of course they willingly refund you, of course. Warning men and women to only use wire transfers with suppliers with whom they haven't set up romantic relationship. Have restricted stock and designs that change from season to season. Designer merchandise has a extremely substantial need and restricted portions are deliberately generated, which helps make the wholesale marketplace small. It is constantly a purple flag when you see a supplier that has the exact types period after period and seemingly countless portions of merchandise, primarily wholesale designer purses. Respectable suppliers will have new types every single period with the exception of signature items and restricted quantities of stock. Supply their contact details up front. Respectable suppliers are constantly up front with their make contact with info. A supplier's identify, handle, which should not be a P.O. box or a UPS handle, telephone range, and email should not be a magic formula or hidden in any way. It is a big purple flag if you have to do any digging to locate out where a supplier is found, how to get in to make contact with them, etc. Seem clear, but I cannot tell you how many men and women have accomplished business with suppliers where this has been the circumstance. If a firm statements to be a legit supplier of wholesale designer purses or other designer goods and cannot meet the over rules, it is generally in your greatest fascination to keep away from undertaking business with them. The place can you discover respectable suppliers of authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes, and additional Nicely, you can possibly invest a great deal of time and cash into undertaking the exploration yourself like I did, or you can use my online wholesale designer directory and strike the floor jogging by benefiting from my research that I acquired the really hard way, by trial and error and connections manufactured from several years of expertise in the designer attire business. The listing I have complied consists of suppliers of reliable wholesale designer purses, apparel, footwear, sunglasses, jewelry, fragrance, cosmetics, add-ons, and extra. Every one firm in my wholesale designer directory has been completely screened. These are the precise exact resources that productive online retailers, eBay and Amazon sellers, boutiques and other resellers use. What tends to make my directory different? In contrast to most men and women featuring wholesale lists relevant to designer merchandise, I have about a decade's expertise in this business. I walk the walk. I commenced out in 2003 with no expertise and eventually designed up a productive business selling designer merchandise. I acquired about the field the really hard way, by trial and error. I have manufactured many errors. I have been ripped off by suppliers that have offered me merchandise that I even though was reliable. I have dropped a great deal cash. I have manufactured a great deal of cash. I have designed contacts in this field that only arrive from several years of expertise. With this expertise, I give extra than just the supplier listings themselves, which no question are valuable. I offer insider know-how into how this business is effective, how to perform with suppliers, guidelines on selling merchandise, matters to appear out for, and so forth. I offer this info as a health supplement to the listing, and I believe this info is just as significant as the listing by itself. Each and every supplier listed in my listing has been screened and is an authentic supplier of reliable wholesale designer purses and other designer merchandise. So you have to be extremely very careful when dealing with suppliers of designer goods, primarily individuals featuring wholesale designer purses. If you never know this business extremely well, it's straightforward to be duped. I know men and women with great intentions that have purchased and offered replicas, thinking they had been selling the real thing, for months without at any time realizing the difficulty. This merchandise is illegal. Even if you tell your buyers it's phony, it's continue to illegal. It is trademark infringement, punishable by regulation. Authentic merchandise is considerably more difficult to arrive by and is not virtually as easily obtainable wholesale. Con artists are rampant in this field. The need for wholesale designer purses and other designer goods is substantial and the offer is reasonably lower, if we're conversing reliable product or service. Simply because of this reality, this field is rife with con artists. In reality, most of the presence you see online marketing reliable designer goods on sites like dhgate.com are for phony merchandise or non-existent goods. The con artists behind these operations can be extremely convincing, with elaborate internet websites, selling price lists with pics of stock stolen from reputable sellers, and telephone quantities. Nevertheless, when you fork out them for merchandise, typically with a wire transfer or cash order, they disappear. Several men and women get ripped off purchasing designer goods wholesale. If you never know this field well, it's extremely straightforward to get taken. I cannot strain this enough. Some designer brand names are difficult to get wholesale. A couple of designer manufacturers are so exclusive with the distribution of their goods, it is not possible to locate them wholesale, anywhere. Louis Vuitton is one of these manufacturers. Louis Vuitton wholesales their merchandise to their boutiques, which are owned by the brand. They do not wholesale to anybody else. Nordstrom, Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue, you identify it. Simply because of this, it is not possible to get LV wholesale. Interval. In reality, if you arrive across a supplier selling Louis Vuitton wholesale, I can guarantee you it's phony. The exception to this is with pre-owned goods. You can locate pre-owned LV wholesale. There are a couple of other designer manufacturers which run this way, but not to fear, it's not the norm. Most designers manufacturers can be uncovered at wholesale, if you know where to appear. How you can tell if a provider of designer goods is respectable. Listed here are 6 matters that legit suppliers of wholesale designer purses and other designer merchandise ordinarily have in widespread. These suppliers present items that can be authenticated by the designer, which usually means that if you mail the merchandise to the designer to have it authenticated or acquire it to a boutique, they will verify that it's reliable. It also usually means that the designer will ordinarily honor any repairs, guarantee problems, and so forth, that could come up mainly because the product or service is authentic. Present wholesale pricing so you can make a income which, on typical, is any place from 50–85% off retail for previous period merchandise and 25–45% off retail for present period merchandise. Present previous season items. More typically than not, legit suppliers of wholesale designer purses and other goods provide previous period merchandise. This ordinarily is composed of overstock, excess and closeout stock. This sort of stock is the bulk of what's obtainable if we're conversing authentic product or service. That getting mentioned, present period stock can be uncovered wholesale, but it represents a small portion of the marketplace. Acknowledge credit rating playing cards or PayPal. Several, not all, authentic suppliers settle for payment strategies that are traceable and reversible, the most widespread getting credit history playing cards and PayPal. Product identify, authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes. Click listed here to get authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes at discounted selling price even though it truly is continue to obtainable. All orders are safeguarded by SSL encryption, the greatest field normal for online security from trustworthy distributors. Authentic wholesale designer purses, garments, shoes is backed with a 60 working day no issues asked revenue back insure. If within just the very first 60 times of receipt you are not satisfied with Wake Up Lean, you can ask for a refund by sending an email to the handle presented within the product or service and we will straight away refund your entire purchase selling price, with no inquiries requested. Description: Issues, 1-800-701-2846 On the lookout for suppliers of reliable wholesale designer purses, apparel, footwear and other goods for your business or a business you'd like to begin? Spent hours hunting online for suppliers with minor to no luck? Observed suppliers but not confident you can have faith in them, are they legit? Is their merchandise really authentic? Ordered wholesale lists that turned out to be junk? Been burned by rip-off artists who offered you phony merchandise or took off with your cash? If so, I realize your aggravation and I can help you. My identify is Victor. Back in 2002, I was attempting to begin a business selling designer purses after looking through an accomplishment story about a man or woman who was earning a great deal of cash in this business. But when I tried to locate a supplier of wholesale designer purses, it felt impossible. I'd spend a great number of hours hunting online and rarely get anywhere, running into possibly questionable suppliers, replica dealers or just simple dead finishes. The frustrating thing was I understood these suppliers existed. I saw men and women selling reliable designer purses on eBay and other internet websites, but I couldn't determine out where they had been receiving them from. Number 1 Required to communicate. Inevitably, when I uncovered a supplier of wholesale designer purses whom I imagined I could trust, a firm based in Italy, no less, I obtained a couple of $1,000 value of Prada purses from them, and they turned out to be phony. I was devastated. Established to locate a legit supplier, I pressed on. A couple of months later, I had my crack. An online seller of designer purses gave me their supplier's information. I could rarely believe it. Equipped with this know-how, I began successfully selling this merchandise as a business. Very long story limited, from that stage until eventually now, I have acquired a great deal about this business. I have manufactured connections with men and women in the field and uncovered dozens extra suppliers of not only wholesale designer purses, but also designer apparel, footwear, add-ons, and so forth. And now I want to share this info with you, so you can supply reliable designer merchandise at wholesale and keep away from the con artists and sellers of phony goods. Getting respectable suppliers of designer goods is not quick. Several suppliers marketing authentic goods or marketing fakes. They're selling what's known as 7-star replicas or mirror image replicas. And these aren't just any replicas. They're top-rated of the line knockoffs manufactured in China which arrive finished with authenticity playing cards, dust covers, and even cereal quantities. They appear so considerably like the real thing, many men and women cannot tell the big difference. And get this, I've taken some of these replicas to a significant office store listed here in the United States and been explained to by their product salesman or woman that they had been reliable. That's how great they are. Granted, they did not fool every single product salesman or woman.